Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. I don't care about going to jail, if it means the world is rid of the waste of a human you are. 3 Revenge Stories of r/Nuclear Revenge. About an abusive grandfather, a spoiled brat and a sick man who has nothing to lose. Never underestimate a child's ability for revenge. When I was much younger, I was molested by a few different people, on different occasions. One almost broke my spirit, but I got my revenge in the end. Being little, and in the 4th grade, there wasn't much I could do physically, but I bided my time. After being held out of school by my grandfather, who told me to put on a dress that was too small and wanted me to sit on his lap. I did neither, but a degree of molestation occurred anyway. I felt dirty, degraded, but most of all I was pissed. I threw myself even farther into my schoolwork and waited, tick, tick, tick. My father, who worked night shifts, was asleep in his room before his shift started. My grandfather and I were in the living room watching television, he in his recliner and I on the couch. He started making noises like a puppy here, hopping on his stomach, forcing the air from his lungs, and vomited into the small trash can next to his chair, then grabbed his chest and looked at me. Confused, I asked if he was okay, and all he could say was, "Ung." I knew from CPR training from the Girl Scouts that he was having a heart attack. I sat on the couch and held eye contact with him, smiling. I waited, and waited, and waited, until he fell unconscious, and it was likely too late for anything to be done before getting my dad, and telling him what was happening in the living room. Dad called 911, and the ambulance came to take the old man away, and I was sent to the neighbor's house, while Dad followed the ambulance in his own vehicle. The old pervert died in the hospital, and I had to play the tearful granddaughter at the funeral. I guess I wasn't a very good Girl Scout after all. Bratty's stepsister framed my baby brother. And I snapped. Until 3 years ago, I lived at both of my parents', 1 week at my mom's and 1 week at my dad's. 10 years ago, so literally less than a year after the divorce, he was living with his new girlfriend, whom he was not going out with before he left my mom. Yeah, right. Said woman got 2 kids, 2 horrible entitled brats, but I kind of pity them because it's their mom's fault if they're like that. Anyway, back then I was still living with my dad, his entitled narcissist girlfriend, and her spawns of hell. The youngest, who was 8 years then, is even worse than her brother, and she did not get better growing up. When you imagine the cliché high school bully girl, you see her. She was spoiled rotten by her mom, and she believes she's entitled with everything. The worst is that she's actually really pretty. Academic-wise she is doing remarkably well, she's popular, and she is captain of her school's basketball team. Now, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against achievements or successful people. But I do hate people who have everything in life and feel like they have to rub it in others' faces and make them feel miserable. When this story happened she was just 8 years old, but she was already a pain. What happened is she waited for the parents to be gone for a romantic dinner, leaving me as a babysitter. Back then I was like 13 to 14 and had to watch 3 kids, and needless to say I wasn't paid. Everything was going okay. She and her brother did try to trigger me, but I had figured it's better to just ignore them. My little brother was in the basement playroom, building Legos. About 10 minutes before the parents got back, we knew because they called to tell us they were about to get home. The brat trashed her bedroom, knocked her own arm on her bedpost to get a mark, and hid her saved up money in my brother's room. When the parents arrived, the show, and the crocodile tears, started. She was crying and wailing that my brother hit her and stole her money. They went to my brother's room, found the money, and my little brother got badly grounded, and he wasn't given a single chance to explain or defend himself. Much later that same night, I was in my little brother's room trying to comfort him, but what do you want to say to a little kid who believes his father doesn't love him? Then, the little bitch creeped in and with the worst smug grin ever, told me what she did. She said, "I remind you she was 8 back then, soon your dad is gonna send you away to live with your stupid slutty mom. I can't wait to see you 2 retarded effers get out of my house." And she left. I was furious beyond words. The next day, when we kids got back home from school and the parents were still at work, I was doing the dishes of the morning because my stepmom and her kids never cleaned up after themselves. The little brat came by and complained about how lousy a maid I was, and she said, "You're almost as retarded and useless as your brother." She almost spat the last word and taunted me, saying that it was just a matter of time before my dad sent him to an asylum for retarded people like him, as she said. I'm not a violent person, but I couldn't stand it anymore. I grabbed her by the collar of her shirt, slammed her against the wall, and took up a knife to her throat and said, "Listen to me, you little witch. I am done with your crap. You want to pick on somebody? Fine. Come after me. But if you ever do something to my little brother, if you ever insult, hurt or frame him ever again, I will kill you. And don't worry, I don't care about going to jail, if it means the world is rid of the waste of a human you are. My life is hell as it is and my little brother is the one good thing I got left and I'll be damned if I let you torment him. Got it? And I pressed the knife more on her throat, enough to hurt but not enough to draw blood. She was petrified, her eyes wide with pure terror. It was the first time, and the last, that she saw me angry. She never bullied my brother after that, or me for that matter. And she never told the parents. Every once in a while doing the dishes, I'd grab a knife and smile at her. I told my brother years later. And he told me he knew I had done something because, okay, proud sister moment, you've always protected me, I don't need a bad dad when I got a superhero for a big sister. I cried. And I regret nothing. Grandpa gave up what time he had left for revenge on my behalf. I grew up dealing with a lot of mental health issues, as my mother is a drug addict and my father liked to ignore my existence as I'm the result of a one-night stand while he was married, so needless to say, his wife hated me and their children treated me horribly as well. The only good people I had in my life was my grandma and grandpa on my father's side. I loved them and spent a lot of time at my grandpa's business. He'll explain that a little later. Now at 14 everything went further downhill. I won't go into details but my mother almost passed away, and I met a man, let's name him Goat. He looked like one. Long story short, Goat was 25 at the beginning and emotionally, physically and sexually abused me. While I was under the pretense that I loved him and it was okay. He pushed me away from my grandparents and isolated me for 2 years until a friend helped me get out of it. During this next year Goat stalked me, threatened me and had me absolutely terrified. I was afraid of going to the police as I didn't want to bring harsh light to my grandpa's business, and because I was afraid. I was staying at my friend's house for a while during this time, as my panic attacks and what I now know as PTSD was horrible and I hated to be alone. During this time my grandmother passed away, one of the only lights in my life left. So I became worse. I began drinking and going to parties and trying to forget my life. Right before my 18th birthday Goat made a real-life appearance again. On my way back from a big party he jumped me, beat me black and blue and almost killed me. I was found and taken to hospital where they began treating me, and as I was underage they asked me to call an adult in my life that they could talk to. I tried to call my father but he didn't pick up. Knowing my mother wasn't going to help I had to call my grandfather. He was at the hospital in lightning speed, and for the first time in my life I watched this man that had built his own empire having a real breakdown. Even at my grandma's funeral he didn't cry. I spent 2 months in hospital, with police questioning me and my grandpa by my side every day. During this time he met my friend who helped me out of it all at the beginning and became very close to him. My grandfather helped me get on my feet for a whole year, until one day he had a large family gathering and socialized the whole time, taking me with him. That night I will never forget. We went to get ice cream and then he just hugged me for a very long time, holding me tight and reassuring me everything would be okay. The next day my grandpa exacted his revenge. My grandpa was the owner of a well-off law firm that also had private detectives and a smaller office in his building. He apparently tracked down Goat and went about his revenge. My grandpa shot Goat 3 times in the stomach and once in the chest. Goat passed away in the hospital later that day while my grandpa was taken in and soon put in jail for manslaughter, which he pleaded guilty to. I never got the chance to visit my grandpa in jail as he passed away soon after in jail from complications. 1 week after my grandpa's death I got a call from his solicitor. And he asked me to go in. I was met with a lengthy letter from my grandpa, which was nothing but loving. He revealed that he had found out he had terminal lung cancer and wouldn't live much longer, but he couldn't happily leave me alone in this world without Goat being gone too. My grandpa left almost everything to me. At 20 I would inherit the law firm and could do as I pleased with it, and I inherited 95% of his savings, his house he lived in with grandma and his other assets. In case anyone's interested, I turned 21 last week. I'm currently working at the law firm. My grandpa's secretary, now the CEO, has taken over the important things in the building and makes most of the decisions. I spent half the money I was given in locked saving funds for all of the younger family members to go to college when it's time. I cut all contact off with my father, who tried to steal money from me during the death arrangements of Grandpa. My friend mentioned earlier in the story is now my fiancée and we are getting married next summer. I'm still suffering from PTSD and depression, but it's getting better every day. I'm in therapy for my PTSD treatment. I got a tattoo for my grandpa and grandma on my back of 2 lions protecting a cub. I also opened up a safe house for anyone going through abuse of any kind. No matter the race, gender or age, I'm trying to help anyone I can in that situation. Besides for what I've put away for later in life, I'm also thinking of opening up the bakery I always wanted and employing the people that need the job and help the most, but I'm unsure at the moment about that. My grandpa and grandma was a godsend, and to this day I miss them greatly, but I know I couldn't have changed the stubborn old man's mind even if I tried. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more revenge stories. Share your own revenge story in the comments below.